Viktor Korchnoi uses his superior tactical skills to win against Anatoly Karpov in this World Championship match round 11. So Viktor is playing with the white pieces and Karpov with the black pieces. So if you can stay like for 2 or 3 minutes, I'll just show you the tactics which will help you to improve your game and your rankings and ratings as a chess player. So do watch on. So we'll quickly go through the opening. This is an Hungarian opening, which is basically an invitation to play Sicilian for black. And after d3, the bishop goes to g7 in fianchetto this bishops for both the players, and f4 opening up the king pawn. And after d6, the knight now comes to f3, and knight to f6 by Karpov with the black pieces, and immediately Korchnoi castles and Karpov also castles of the seventh move. c3 by Korchnoi, and the rook comes to b8 now, and queen goes to e2, and the knight retreats to e8, reorienting the knight. But it was better to push the pawn to b5 over here. So bishop to e3 by Victor, and knight to c7, and after that d4 by Victor, and the pawns get taken and the pawns get captured back. And after that, the bishop to g4, pinning this knight against the queen over here. So the knight cannot move, and you need an extra protection for this particular pawn on the d4. So the rook comes here to d1, protecting the pawn, because you cannot move the knight over here to protect that pawn if it's captured. So d5 by Karpov, and instead of going for the capture, e5 basically. So this creates this pressure on these two squares for black, and white can use this position as outpost later on in the game. So outposts on the 6th rank are pretty dangerous, and queen now comes to d7, creating this battery along this open light square diagonal in which Karpov have his bishop, and knight now comes to c3, and rook comes to c8 into this open c file. So the queen now goes to f1, getting away from that pin, and now you still have this rook pin here because of the earlier protection of the rook. And after that, b5, and basically with the intent of pushing it again to b4 and threatening this knight. And once the knight moves in, you can just push your pawns on the other pawn to a5 as well. So before that, Victor just pushes h3 and trying to push that bishop away. So the bishop captures the knight, and the bishop captures the bishop back, and also frees up the space for the king to move up towards its pawn structure if it's required. And b4 by Karpov, and an in between move, bishop to g4, attacking the queen. So e6 played, and covering that attack, and after that the knight jumps to a4 here. So the knight to a5 by Karpov, and which allows knight to c5, attacking the queen, and the queen goes to e8, and after that bishop comes to e2 over here. So the knight now comes to b7, preventing but it was better to bring your knight over here to the c4 square, using it in output and also attacking that bishop over here. So but that didn't happen, and after that the knight gets captured, and the rook captures that knight back. So here is the tactics that we talked about. So you can just place your bishop over here, but because of the knights here, you cannot do that as of now. So be aware of this. So this is how the game changes. So the rook now comes to c1, and queen goes to d7, protecting the rook, and also going to the 7th rank, and rook to c2 by Victor, intending to double up the rook on this open c file, and the pawn push to b3, attacking the rook, and the pawn get captured, and the rook captures the pawn back, and also attacking this unprotected bishop as well. So to protect the bishop, queen to c1 is played, which actually protect this particular bishop, so you cannot take it anymore. And because the rook captured this pawn over here, this pawn is hanging as well. So Karpov had to bring his rook back to here to protect this particular pawn over here. And guess what happened next? Bishop to a6 is played basically. So here what will happen is you cannot capture with your knight back here. So if you capture with your knight, I'll just show you what will happen. So if you capture with your knight like this, yes, you can capture back this knight back with your rook. But before doing that, you can just take this rook like this with a check, and it's a forced move, so you have to close it with your bishop. and after that this knight will be gone. So you will be down by a major piece if you go for the capture. So after the bishop to a6 position, there was nothing else to be done, and the rook to b8 is played, and the bishop will capture that particular rook here. So the idea here is that if your knight or any piece is pinned, that knight effectively do not exist over there. It exists, but the support of the knight do not exist over here, and that's what costed that um, going down the exchange for Karpov, which basically costed him the match. So after this, the, the bishop captures the rook, and the rook comes to a3, and after h6, now there is a triple battery on this knight, and the knight had to move, and it goes to b5 attacking the rook, and check again, and after the king moves in, both of the rooks infiltrates the back and the sixth rank respectively. So f6 by Karpov, trying to clear the path for protecting the king and also activating his pawns. King comes up to g2, protecting the pawns and also taking the king off the back rank, and queen into f7 played now, and now queen to c2 by Victor, and the pawn push of a5, and the pawns of g4 is now pushed, and the pawns get captured, and f pawn captures back, opening up this space for the queen, and because of the queen of white, you can defend the king as well. So the pawn push of a4 continues, and now the rook goes here, going after this particular pawn, and the knight goes there, attacking, blocking that particular path of the rook, because you cannot use your rooks to protect that particular pawn. It's attacked twice already, and now Victor places his rook to a6, attacking the knight and also attacking the pawn over here. So the queen comes to e7, and after that the pawns get captured, and the rook attacks the white queen, and the queen goes to b3, and after the knight jumps to c6, the rook goes to a1, and the knight jumps to b4, and the rook comes to c1, attacking the rook with the support of the bishop. So the rook comes to c4, attacking the pawn, and now the rook to b8, pinning, attacking and pinning that knight. So the rook goes and captures the rook here. So, and the bishop captures the rook back, and queen to c7, attacking this bishop and this particular rook at the same time. So the rook captures the knight, and the queen captures this bishop as well. It was a twin attack, but because you can't capture that particular knight, it was okay. You exchange your pieces like that, and now the queen goes to d3, protecting this weak backward pawn, and the rook covers this b2 pawn over here, and the pawn push of h5, and the rook goes to b6, attacking the weak backward pawn, which is preventing these pawns from passing. And after that, the bishop goes to h6, and the pawn now get captured, and the queen goes to g5 with the check, and the check gets covered, and queen again comes to d2, and basically as of this position, Karpov resigned the game, because after the following moves, check, the king can just get away, and the queen can capture that pawn back, and your backward pawn will be gone, and the bishop comes to g5, and as you can see, these three pawns are marching in, and this black pawn is also gone, because the rook can just come here and grab this pawn, and because this is a dark square bishop, it cannot protect this pawn. And if the queen trying to protect, you can just put your queen over at here at g2, and with the double attack, these pawns will be basically gone, and you can push either one or two pawn of these pawns to queen, and the game is over. So basically that's why Karpov resigned. Super GMs won't play such position when the position is lost. They resign gracefully. So I hope you like the match, and I hope you use the tactics in your game so that you can win more matches and get a better rating. So thanks very much for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.